Now you may be asking yourself, why did I replace the entire steering shaft? That's why. Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today we're going to be focused in on the hubs and braking system on our 2002 Honda TRX400EX. Looking at the hubs, we've already blasted them back. They've been refinished with Cerakote, and now it's time to go ahead and dig out those old seals and bearings. So the kit I decided to go with is one from PivotWorks, and it's going to have new bearings, new seals, everything we're going to need to rebuild both of these hubs. Yes, I got a little paint on this seal, but I knew I was going to be replacing it, so no harm, no foul. Guys, these actually, they feel pretty good, but let's go ahead and replace them. They're on my table. Let's go ahead and do it. Now I have a very expensive blind bearing puller, but I don't want to have to bring that out because chances are you don't want to spend the money to pick up one of these. And they're great if you do this stuff every day, but we're going to use a couple of workarounds to get this done. And what we're going to do is attack it from the back side because that inner spacer is actually conical because it goes on the end of the front hub shaft. So what we're going to do, a little bit of tool abuse here, I'm going to use an impact one though, is use one that just barely fits inside of the first bearing, hit that conical spacer in the middle, and then drive it through. But it has this rounded edge to where it wouldn't damage it as it drove the other bearing out the other side. Now, let's get out that other inner bearing. Almost. There. Okay, reverse engines with new stuff. The trick, as always, when installing a new bearing, you want to hit it on the outer race, not on the center. So something like that should do it. Such a cool kit. I know I keep raving about it, but it works so well. That's it. Now let's get in a couple of seals. Yeah, that should be it. There we go. Threw me off. It actually flattened that down for a second. But she's fine. Next, we want to go ahead and pack the inside of the seal with a little bit of grease. All right, get you in. All right, next, let's go ahead and get on our brake disc. All right, these I decided to reuse, and I went through the process of blasting them in the media cabinet, and then to keep this center section from rusting, I actually made a photocopy and then a template to cover up the surface area for the brake pads themselves, and then just clear coated the center section. So that'll help to keep it from rusting. According to the manual, we want the disc facing up away from the hub itself. And now we want to take each one of these to 31 foot-pounds. It did say to do it in steps, so we'll go 10, 20, and then 31. One down, one to go. I think I'll spare you having to watch me do the other one. So let's go ahead and head over to the machine and get these installed. Let's start over on our right side. Let's get a little bit of grease on our spindle. Now it was fairly worn on the inside, fair amount of rust. Blasted off what I could, and I think we're still good to go. Now we've already got grease down inside our seal, so I think we're ready to go on there now. Oh, that feels so much better than the other one did. So definitely worth the time to go ahead and replace the bearings. Even though they felt all right on the table when we took them off, I remembered it was not such a smooth rotation at all. That's the way it should be. Let's get our castle nut on, and then we're going to torque it to 43 foot-pounds. Put a cotter pin in. We're going to take it just a little bit further so we've got a straight shot. I think right there is going to do it. Here's where we need to have a little bit of a conversation. Now, we're working with the right side caliper at the moment, but I had blasted the left side and pulled it apart. And if you remember correctly, when I broke all this down and removed the brake line hoses, it was painfully obvious that this thing had more water than it did brake fluid inside the system. So the caliper outer housing, it was okay, but that piston on the inside, it was rusted. And by the time I bought a rebuild kit, and that wasn't that bad, but when you bought the inside, that piston in there, well, you are within about 15 to 20% of a brand new one. So guess which way I decided to go. I did not think it would be worth trying to rebuild the old ones, so I went with new ones. Fiscally, it was more responsible just to replace the whole thing versus trying to rework one in such bad shape. So get our pins out, get our new brake pads in, and then we'll get it mounted up. Not mandatory, but I prefer to use a little bit of Loctite on the caliper bracket bolts. And we're going to torque them to 22 foot-pounds. Magic number on the pins is 13 foot-pounds. They call these pin pad plugs in 2.2 foot-pounds, which is right there. One down, same thing, other side, and then we will start working on the steering, because it doesn't exist yet, but it will. All right. Yippee-ki-yay. Now, let's go ahead and work on our steering system, because if you watch me break this thing down up top for a bushing, they were using PVC. Now, granted, that was an original solution, and it worked, but we're going to go back to the OEM, if you don't mind. Also, I was feeling this lower bearing, and there's only one for the steering, and it's quite loose. So we're going to go ahead and knock out those seals, remove that bearing, and then get a new set installed. So let's start off with that and then get our steering shaft in place. The trick is finding room to work. There we go. And the crowd goes wild. Now, let's see if we can get that seal on the bottom. Now the fun part. Hence why I might be getting out my bazillion-dollar tool, which everybody hates, but I love because it's cool. It works. That was just really worn out, so this is going to be worth the effort. Let's see if we can extract this booger. The only thing I'm worried about is it's worn to the point it may rip out the inner race. I don't know. Most important is just that first bit of movement. Once we get that, we should be good to go. Could you pull it off with a slide hammer? Maybe, if you would have reheated the frame to get it to bust loose. After we went through all the pain of painting this, maybe I should have done this prior to, but hey, this was the better way to pull it out. It just took a really expensive tool to do it. That's the downside, but once again, love this tool. Use it every day, buy one. If not, find a way around it. There you go. Note to self, this would have been a lot easier to do with nothing else in the frame. Just turn the frame upside down, but it is what it is. All right, I do want to get some anti-seize in here. Not that I ever plan on taking this out, but maybe for the next person. All right, let's see if we can knock this thing in there. That's it. Now let's drop in our circlip. Upper seal, lower seal. All right. Then we have a collar that goes up in the bottom. Seal went in, then the collar went inside the seal. So that's what you're looking at down there. You just have to take my word for it. Or don't, I don't care. Okay, some grease on the inside of our lip. Now, I think we can safely go ahead and get this nut on. But let's go ahead and get our upper bushing in place, and then we'll come back and torque that one at the bottom. Now this new bushing, it has little arrow that says up. So make sure that's facing up, and we want to grease the inside of this. So we're gonna get it slid around there, and then it's got like a clamshell that holds it in place. These had split locking washers on them, so we're going with these. And they matched, so. Well, that feels a lot better than it did when we started. It just kind of flopped around in there. Now we're going to take these to 24 foot-pounds. Now that bottom one's, there it is. 51 pounds coming up. Now we have this absurdly long cotter pin that goes in the bottom of the steering shaft. All right. All right, let's go ahead and get these little disc guards on before I forget or either lose these bolts. Not exactly sure what they actually accomplish, but we're gonna put them back on anyway. Well, they were serious about this. They've got Loctite on them. Now you may be asking yourself, why did I replace the entire steering shaft? That's why. Pretty serious bend in this thing. Let's go ahead and build up our tie rods, and remember they're going to be the longer ones because we've got the little bit wider stance with the control arms from full flight. This builds up just like a stock one. Sometimes you have to head over to your vise just to hold things still so you can get them in position. We're good to go. Let's get these mounted up. I looked at getting all the nuts and bolts cleaned up and anodized, but they were in such bad shape, and well, a lot of them, they were not OE to begin with. I just went ahead and replaced the majority of them. I mean, it's a good alternative. If yours are in decent shape, get them cleaned up, get them sent off, get them anodized, whatever color you want, and then get it put back together. But for me, simpler and cheaper, just to go ahead and buy new. So I've got them in place, and it's adjusted loosely, and we'll do final alignment with our alignment tool once everything's put together and she's actually sitting on the ground. Now we're just gonna get these 14 millimeter nuts in place and then get them torqued down. 33 foot-pounds coming up. Then don't forget to put in your safety cotter pins when you're done. Right side done, let's jump over and knock out the other side. Same procedure, just a mirror image. Now that the other side's on, I can't pull it over far enough to get it up in there. So, how about a wobble? An extension from the bottom. All right, kids, we've got that wrapped up. I want to go ahead and get the table cleaned back off, drop it down, and then get the handlebars installed. I did try to blast the old ones, but you could tell that bars have been moved back and forth so many times, it had actually worn down the inside section, and chances are they weren't going to tighten up anymore. These weren't that expensive, so I just reordered the stock stuff. The setup I'm going with is a 7/8 inch bar from Renthal. Always like the Renthal stuff. I usually run my bars straight down the steering stem. And we'll come around and tighten these in a minute. Before we do that, I want to go ahead and torque these two to 29 foot-pounds. I don't really give a torque for these. We're going to say 15. So let's get an idea of about where our controls need to go. Our grip should end up about right here. So our throttle, and we can certainly fine-tune this later in the game, but this will at least get us in the ballpark for right now. This one's come a long way, hasn't it? I love that Cerakote coating. Really impressed with it thus far. So let's talk about brake hoses. When I initially ordered these, I got a set from Streamline, but they were made for the stock A-arms. Well, of course, I went with the aftermarket. When I ordered those, I just ordered the +2s from Full Flight Racing. I kind of like the Streamline ones better, and they do make extended ones, so I went ahead and ordered those. They're just not here yet. But we'll go ahead and get it run, at least down to the T, and when the other ones come in, then I'll replace them. But in the time being, we can go ahead and start working on the braking system in the back. The factory one, it was rubber down to here and then a hard line. the rest of the way down. What we could do is run it the same direction and then make our own clamp or guide at that same point. So we're just kind of making this up as we go. We'll leave it there for the time being. I was able to reuse the front disc, but on the rear, she is a little too chewed up for my liking. So that's going to make it a regular wear on the pads, and it's not going to give even braking. So we are going to go ahead and replace it. Get it in place, rotate it around, then we're going to torque each bolt to 31 foot-pounds. That may not be in the book, but it works. Now guys, you see me marking all these nuts and bolts with a red marker after I torque them. That way you don't have to second guess, oh, did I torque that or did I not? I mean, if you see that mark, you know that you did. If you don't, you better go back and check it. Now let's get on our new rear brake caliper. We do not want to tighten these down yet because I just want to temporarily mount it to where I can break these pins loose, then get our pads in, then we'll come back and tighten them up. Now I did open up the old original brake caliper and it looks so horrid on the inside. The piston was rusted. I mean, there was just no way to really recover it. And by the time I bought a new piston and cleaned it out and bought the seals, I was at like 75% of what an entire brand new unit costs. So I decided to go ahead and replace it. Taking these to 22 foot-pounds. Now we're going to take those two pin bolts to 13 foot-pounds. Bend a couple of tabs over to hold everything in place. Now we will not be running a parking brake on this unit, so that's going to come off, and then we've got a blocking plate that's going to cover it up. Block off plate isn't here yet. When it comes in, then we'll pop it on. I mean, I owned one of these back in 2006, and I'd like to believe I was pretty good at keeping up with maintenance. But it was just a constant battle trying to keep the parking brake adjusted correctly, because as the brake pads wear, you would always have to adjust the parking aspect of it. 9 foot-pounds. Now we're just getting our rear brake line in place. I think we're going to be something about like that. Now this is the correct clamp for back here, but the one up front was a metal one, but it was designed to also hold the parking brake cable, which we're not going to have. So I ordered a second one of these, and I'm just going to modify it slightly to go right here. When I say modify, I'm going to ground off that part of it right here. Just take that off flush. I believe that will do. Next, let's go ahead and get on our reservoir. I'm regretting throwing away part of the parts now. I wish I would have kept them all. Just to see a big pile that I'm basically replacing more than half of a four-wheeler. Let's get out 2 little grease seals on either side of where the brake pedal goes. And if you didn't know to look for them, you would think that was just part of the frame. But no, it is not. Those were crispy, to say the least. So let's get our new ones pushed in. Now it's pretty easy out here, but the trick is getting that done on the other side. I think I may have to come up with a different approach. Let's see if we can pull it in with a nut and a bolt. That'll do. Now let's get plenty of grease in there. Anybody that's ever owned, well, just about any Honda knows that these are notorious for getting dried out, rusting, and then, well, basically freezing up. Not so much on the 400EX or the 450, but the old 350s, they were bad about it. Many a time I'd see them come in with not only the brake lever completely frozen up, but the pivot on the drum brakes as well. Well, let's face it, 350s weren't that fast, and for the most part, and they could just kind of coast to a stop. So, no big deal. Not beautiful, but it'll work. What do we have left? I think maybe a spring. Yeah, piece of cake. Everything's mounted up. Let's go ahead and get some fluid in this and bleed it. Yeah, go ahead and let it gravity feed a little bit. I think I'm going to get out our Mighty Vac and go ahead and expedite the process. This is a cool little setup here. Pulling it real quick. Yeah. Now, if you're enjoying this, go hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. Let's see if she goes. Oh yeah. A little bit more and we'll call it done. We'll bleed it down to the line, close it. I think that's got it. Now, let's head back up front and get it finished up. The longer lines came in from Streamline, so we're just going to get those installed real quick. Now do note, the Streamline system, they have compensated for this T being offset. So one is just a little bit longer than the other. We're going to leave this loose for the time being because we're going to need to rotate it around. Now as far as routing, we're going to split the difference, go in between the arm, and to keep it off the shock, I got a set of hose management clamps. I think it came from Alba Racing. So I think we're going to go with the clamp about 2/3 of the way down. Let's make sure we've got enough room for it to turn. And we do. Well, actually that gives it a little wiggle room inside of the clamp. As long as I keep it off the shock, it doesn't matter. I think I'm happy with that. Let's just repeat the process on the other side and get these bled. We're going to have to retighten that one over there. She actually goes right there. All right. Let's drop it down a little bit and see if we can get this thing bled. Lines in place. Let's go ahead and get on our brake lever. Love this stuff from ARC. I always like to put a little bit of grease on it, make it just a little bit easier for it to rotate. And then a lock nut on the bottom. Now we can get the front system bled. We'll start on this side. Yeah, make sure if you dribble any like I did, that you get it off quick, because this will eat into your paint, even the epoxy paint that we used on this. Cerakote's showing its worth there. Regular paint, that would it'd take it off, but not with this stuff. All right, let's walk over to the other side, pull it, and then I would imagine we'll do one more, and that should do it. Get it down into the sight glass, and then shut her off. We're going to call that good. All right, now I'm happy. Now all we have to do is get our bladder and the spacer and our cap on, and we're done. Well, all right guys, that's going to wrap up the braking system, and thus brings us to the end of this video. Tracy and I were talking, and I think we're going to put in the engine next. So I know you don't want to miss that, so tune in when we drop the next video. Listen, we just want to say thanks for watching, and we will see you then.